might still like board games, there's a lot of people who don't like board games.
They're
Like
different.
I don't like board games. Well, I haven't gone up to Vinny like, hey, do you hate board games? I'm not going to go up to somebody down the street.
But you say there's tons of people, but you don't know anybody.
Yeah, well, you don't know any serial killers, but they're out there. So say.
Okay. If there, don't drop this mic. But if I had another mic to give you, I'd let you drop it.
Inconceivable!
Hello and welcome to Inconceivable. I'm William.
I'm Mackenzie.
And I'm Alex.
Good to have you back, Mackenzie. How long has it been? Like,
I don't know. Months.
Months? Well, definitely months.
Years.
At least months.
Years? No. It's last season. But yeah. So, today we're going to be having like our actual official like first episode of how Inconceivable is going to be changing into this more one topic, more conversational type episodes. So yeah, today something came out the end of last year that I thought was pretty interesting / revolutionary. From the creators of Black Mirror, they made a interactive film called Bandersnatch. You watched it recently. We watched it together. I already know what. Let's start with what you think of it.
It was good. It was kind of confusing at some points. And I don't know, I was like not super happy with the endings to begin with, but
I wasn't happy with
I kind of liked
any
it.
of
I kind of liked it better the second time, because the first time I was really tired.
Yeah.
And the second time I did it, it was much better.
I should preface that even though this isn't directly a review of Bandersnatch, we will definitely be talking in depth about a lot of Bandersnatch, so spoilers to be abound.
Yeah.
Be warned.
Be abound,
Be
yes.
warned.
Arr, they be abound.
That doesn't make any sense.
The spoilers, the Bandersnatch.
Well, I wasn't really happy with a lot of the endings just because it was such a depressing story. I'm just
It was
like,
so, because
Black Mirror,
every single one was a bad ending.
I was like, Black Mirror, can you please give me something happy? Something a little happy. A ray of silver across the cloud. Or
A ray of silver.
A ray of silver.
Across the cloud.
It's like a straight ray. A silver lining, that's what it's... Anyway, yeah.
I couldn't tell if you actually forgot what you were saying or if you were just being funny.
No, I definitely forgot.
You should have just moved on and we all just that Alex kid.
I dragged it out. I'm sorry. But yeah, I honestly the more I watched it, the more uncomfortable I got, just because one, it was depressing, but also I was getting really annoyed because it brings you back to the exact same thing.
And you have to rewatch stuff.
Yeah, I'm just
And it doesn't like fast forward through some stuff enough.
Yeah.
You cannot. I think that's my actual single complaint. Doesn't have to do anything with the story itself. It has to do with the function of it. I was annoyed that I couldn't fast forward to a certain decision that I made.
Yeah, and also like it would give you like a decision, but you didn't really get a decision because whatever it wanted to happen was going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
Like when the part where he like offered him the drug, and it's like you can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can take the drug or don't take it, and then he slips it into his tea. And I'm like, kidding me?
It's like, what did I just do? Do I have no power over here?
I don't know, because it happened anyway. And then the next scene was exactly the same no matter what. You chose for take the drug or don't take the drug.
Well, then later on, it was, hey, one of us is jumping off the building. I'm just like, do you have to? How about you guys don't do that? Because,
I
that's a
chose
bad
Cullen
idea.
to jump first, the guy who wasn't my guy.
Yeah.
And then I chose myself, it like sent me back at another point, and I was like, oh, I'll jump this time. And so I just like jump, and I die, and it's just like, that was an ending.
Well, really...
I'm like,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just like, okay.
Well, one of the things that that made me more and more aggravated was whenever it'd go to the release of the video game that he was making, and those stupid TV hosts.
And the little kid's just like, I don't like it.
He's like, it's all weird and dark and uncomfortable and everything.
You're weird, dark, and uncomfortable.
Boy, you're a little turd.
It was so funny, the one, I forgot how you got to it, but there was one specifically where he just went on and on and on and on and on about it, and then eventually he just cut out to where and then
I'm just like,
it was weird and disturbing and off-putting and just bizarre, and then it just kept going and going and going, and then eventually the episode just ends, but he never stopped saying, because it was weird because you didn't see it coming, because at first like, yeah, it just was a bit underwhelming, and honestly my final thoughts are that it was weird, it was like, it was just like he just like gave like 20 different like adjectives about it, and then it just like eventually the episode just stopped, and it was like, wow, that was kind of brutal.
I
He
love
seemed
the-
very snobbish. I was
Right,
like,
super
get out of
snobbish.
The
here.
real enemy of that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. And I like the part where he's like in the therapist's office and she's like, well, if you were watching this, wouldn't you want it to be more entertaining?
Oh
How
my
would you make it more
gosh.
entertaining? And it's like, fight you, and it throws the tea in her face.
That
It's
was
like,
the
Do you want
best.
to fight her or jump out the window? And I was like, fight her, of course.
Yeah,
And then they get all ninja on it, and I'm like, okay.
I was wondering about that. She's like, get more interesting. Wouldn't you want a little more action? I'm just like, I
I
don't know
got
what kind
really
of action
nervous. I was like, what kind of
I'm
action's
like,
gonna happen?
What kind of therapist is this? I'm getting uncomfortable right now.
It's like masseuse. It's like a masseuse
Oh,
session
gosh.
gone wrong or something.
Dude,
Yeah, then his
it made
dad
me,
shows up.
Speaking of that, it made me wonder, is this the most meta thing you've ever seen?
It
Deadpool's
probably
pretty
was.
meta, but I feel like
No,
this is
this
even
one was-
more because there's layers. You know, it's not just breaking the fourth
It's the
wall.
layers of the onion.
Okay, cast layers. Because yeah, the whole thing where it's like, you basically like spill the beans. Like, well, it's a Netflix. She was like, "What the heck is Netflix?" And I was like, "Well, if this is a show,
I
like,
love that part.
apparently I found out just today while kind of like refreshing myself and stuff. There's a scene where they literally break the fourth wall where the characters forget like what they're doing, like they forget their lines, and then it zooms out and you see that they're actually on a set.
Did you get that? You got that ending where when you say, instead of fight her, you say jump out the window, and he tries to open the window and he can't. And then the girl, it turns around, it goes to the other girl, and she's like, oh, that's the end of the scene. Then we do the fight scene next. You can't actually open the window, and they're on the set. And
Oh,
he's just
that's
like,
how you
"What
get to
is
it. Yeah, we
going
never
on?"
Got
we never
to
did
that.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
it
wondering how you got to that
Libby
scene.
got that one because she didn't want to fight him, and I was like, no, I want to fight him. And she's like, well, I don't want to, so she's gonna jump out the window.
That was so
Yeah.
And
funny.
then you're like, I was like, what?
I didn't like
It was so
there
trippy.
I didn't like there were so many options either. Like, I understand what they were going for, but when you want to know a story, you want to know the entire story for the most part. But with that, like, you'd have to go through, 5 hours of content? I don't have time to watch
Yeah.
that in one sitting, and it
Is
just
it
get
really 5 hours of content?
at least, I think. But it was just
we spent like 3 hours on it,
yeah, it's a
and
big
we did, I think, about 3/4 of the possible outcomes.
I did like an hour the first time. Libby definitely did longer last night.
Did both you and Libby do the thing?
Libby's
I mean,
our friend, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is something that they're supposed to trip you up on. Did you guys both choose to go with a big company at the beginning of the...
The first time I did it, yeah, I did choose to go with the big company. But the thing is like, I was like, I'm gonna refuse. I'm like, no, and I clicked the other one. I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't do that now.
And immediately
'Cause
it's like, wrong
'cause
choice.
My first thought was to click the refuse button, and then I just clicked the other one, and I was like, why did I do that?
What's cool about that is that was a really good way to demonstrate that, one, the fact that you could go back and, like, if you, like, messed up, you could go back, even if the story ended. It's like, hey, we understand you may not been satisfied by the ending you just got.
Yeah.
Let's go back a couple decisions,
I know,
you
it
know?
kind of was disheartening at the same time. I'm like, oh, it ended already? I'm like, oh, okay. I guess
But then
I
it
can go
also
back.
made you realize that the best options aren't always the ones that you want. You know, because it's like
Or the-
you had a very
or the
what seemed like an
reasonable
obvious
ones.
one. It's like this is what he wants. Obviously, he wants to like get the job. Why would he say no? And then you realize like, oh, there's like different. Like it makes you think deeper about the decisions that you're making and about all the weight it could possibly carry long term. So because then you also realize that when he said no, he didn't say no to the game because that's what you thought when you're choosing the two decisions. You realize that no, I'm still gonna make the game, just not like in the
Yeah.
house with you guys. And you're like, oh, that's not that bad, you know.
Okay, because I thought because when I originally saw it, I was going to say refuse, and I'm like, no, but that means he's not going to get the chance at all, so it's probably going to end. And I went with the other one because it seemed like that would continue on, and nope.
So what was the ultimate ending that you ended up getting?
I think I got, the last ending I got was, I think when he killed his dad.
Yeah, that was the same one for us
Or-
a couple times at least.
Yeah, because I got it.
we killed him a couple times.
Okay, the first like ending I got where it's like you can go to credits was he killed his dad and he buried him in the backyard, and
Dumb dog.
yeah, that dumb dog man.
Smart
But
dog.
yeah, that's
Well, there
that's
was
the first one I got.
Sorry, there was the one where it said like, "Oh, remember you have my number," and then we were frantically trying to figure out what the number is because we didn't write it down.
Oh,
We're
did
like,
you mess it up?
"Oh, we
I
messed it up."
Both
Yeah.
of
Me
Yeah.
and Libby got it right because they tell you You don't need to write it down because
No,
they
I
tell
know,
you right before.
but I did something wrong because what happened is that I accidentally pressed the wrong number and I couldn't figure out how to go back.
backspace,
and then
yeah.
eventually the time ran out. And unfortunately, that was one of those endings where they didn't give you a back option. There's a couple of those where it's like just roll credits, start from the beginning. So if you mess up that phone number, it's like, yeah.
That's crap. So what happens after you mess up the phone number? It just ends?
Yeah, he just kind of like slumps down with the phone just on the dial tone. It's like, well,
That is
can't
so
remember the number.
lame.
Yeah.
Man, I'm glad.
But I mean, it wasn't like that was the last ending that we had, but we had like 5 different endings up till that point. So, and then when we played with Wesley, the ending that he got, which basically we were eventually working towards, we just had to call it quits somewhere, you know, because we spent so much time on the thing, was that he ends up going back on time and goes on the train with his mom.
Yeah, that one was weird
How do you get
too.
to that?
So, by finding out, you can get. Did you ever get to the scenes where you could go to his dad's safe?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple things related to the safe thing that eventually, when you go back,
'Cause it says
when you
could
find the
do
toy,
pack, or you could do toy, or
Yeah.
you could do.
so something related to do with a toy, it takes him back, and then you eventually have the option to go with your mom or continue to stay like you actually did. And if you go with your mom, it does this like dramatic sequence where you're having this nice peaceful moment with his mom on the train, and then it's really bizarre because then it cuts back to him in the therapist's office, and he's just sitting there, and he's totally unconscious. And
No, he's
then-
dead.
Yeah, no, I know he's
Yeah,
dead,
she's.
but
Oh, I
he's-
think there was a point where he was dead. Oh,
and she
maybe
was
it's-
freaking out because he just passed away before her eyes, and she
Yeah.
doesn't know what happened. And
didn't
like
think
that's
of that.
it was kind of like a weird like out of body experience in a way, because like he killed himself.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it was
I think
really
he got
wobbly,
himself?
timey-wimey.
What happens if you don't select an answer at all?
It just picks one.
It does pick one for you. Yeah.
It does? Okay, because I never tried doing that, but I was like, I wonder if that's like your third option is not to pick one at all.
Yeah. No, they definitely thought about that. What I really loved about how they handled this is that the decisions definitely had weight. And I feel like it definitely, like, it was a nice blend of, like, purposely making mistakes to help you learn to other... Because sometimes you had to get
Kill
certain...
dad.
Yeah.
It's like, no,
Like,
don't
with
do
the whole
that.
drug sequence, you had to like, eventually you learned that you had to let Colin kill himself to progress in the story from the other end.
Yeah.
So, like, if you didn't eventually choose that way to end the story that way, then you couldn't go back, and then... So...
Then his wife comes in. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, I feel like a horrible person.
Yeah.
But then again, what are the creepy
they're- but-
monster things?
The creepy
The
monster.
Bandersnatch? Like
Is
the
that
actual
the
Bandersnatch?
Bandersnatch?
Oh, well...
Oh, the lion.
That was like
King,
in
yeah,
a
that
dream,
is amazing.
though.
Yeah, that was... Yeah.
I guess because he was on drugs at one time. But then it showed up in another part. I don't remember what part, but it showed up again.
It was in his dream, at least.
It
Yeah.
must have been a dream.
I know it was related to what the original creator of the book was referring to as some creature that he made up or something along that.
I mean, he was also tripping for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he did
was.
see a couple things, like Colin's eyes coming out of his
Oh
his
god,
face.
that was so
That was
weird.
It was so subtle, too, and then you're just watching it, and you're
You're
like,
just like,
oh, please put
yeah.
your glasses back on. Oh, that's uncomfortable.
Dude, when he
Let me
made
show you.
the whole thing about the Pac-Man like reference and all those things, all I could think about was the Scott Pilgrim movie where he gives the fact
Yeah.
about. And now I'm imagining instead of him
Program
giving
control.
instead of like giving Ramona that fact about Pac-Man, like Scott Pilgrim, like saying that whole sequence about Pac-Man about how it's all program control, and putting that in that scene instead of the awkward like the original name for Pac-Man, all that stuff. That'd be funny. But yeah, so did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it. I don't know if I'll go back and do it again and try and get more endings. But I feel like twice was enough. But I only did like an hour the first time and like an hour and a half the second time.
It's enjoyable to watch other people too.
Yeah, I liked watching Libby do it better than me doing, honestly. That was way more entertaining, especially when she's like, I don't want to kill a dad.
Because we did it together.
I didn't like bad choices at all. I'm just like,
Yeah.
don't do drugs and don't commit murder.
See, I didn't-
Don't do suicide either. Don't
It's
do
like
any of
literally,
those.
Don't do the
fake.
suicide.
It's a fake world, and I still chose not to take the drug. And I'm like,
You just
Okay.
take it I
Take it
Why?
anyway.
I didn't have a chance.
I'm like, oh, I'm such a good teacher.
Someone's gonna die, and they did. Yeah. So I personally didn't really care for it. It bothered me a lot, just like a mental level. It was kind of like the sort of Matrix / Inception sort of deal, where it's like, this is super meta, but it's also questioning reality. And I hate it when something questions reality, because I'm just like...
It makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's like, it makes my skin sort of crawl in a way.
So
It's
something tells me you're not exactly a fan of Black Mirror entirely.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Black Mirror is very intriguing, and it's very well made. And, like, you want to know what happens, but it's never really, like, satisfying in the end, I think.
I think that
it's like bad candy, you know? It's like, it might taste good a little bit, but then in the end, you're just disappointed. You're like, why did I eat this?
It's like grandma's caramel, whatchamacallits.
Oh, toffees or something?
I don't know.
That's fair.
The old candy. The Asian candy that's been there for like years and years.
The stuff that tastes like soap.
Yeah, it is. It's like soap.
Yeah.
I was wondering about if this type of medium made you feel more connected to the main character than a traditional film, or more immersed into it. Like, did either of those things, like the interaction element, did that help you feel more related to the main actor or feel more connected in any way?
Well, it certainly made me not want to kill his dad.
It definitely made
bad
you.
Decisions.
It made you, even though he was a real jerk, it definitely made you, like.
I mean, the dad really wasn't that bad.
Well, because here's the thing, right?
He stole his teddy bear.
Do you think that
He stole his. Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing, really. I mean,
You know
granted,
what?
he was doing...
You don't actually want your kids getting super attached to something like that. You leave the house, and you don't have it. It's the end of the world, and you have the worst shopping trip of your life. So don't let your kids get attached to stuff like that. You're giving yourself problems.
This sounds personal.
because we had the decision
kids.
to do that, we cared more about it. If this was not interactive and that was part of the story that he just eventually kills his dad, would you have cared as much as you do because you have a decision to?
Wait, like if the end result was he killed his dad no matter what?
No. As in, like, if Bandersnatch was not interactive at all,
Yeah.
and a part of that movie, like, one of the things he chose to do was kill his dad, would you have cared as much? Or do you care more because it's interactive?
I probably would care more because it was interactive.
I
Because
think-
it would have been my decision to kill the dad.
Yeah, I'd say,
Because
like...
if it just happened before
When-
your eyes, would you
even though
actually
it's
care?
just
It's
When
like, oh wow, that was a
it's
jerk
like,
movie.
this is my choice, too. I feel like I'm an accomplice in this. This
Yeah.
is terrible.
And it's like, I don't know, it's because...
Both bad options, really.
Yeah.
You do have a couple of those where you don't want either option, you know?
I liked
Yeah.
when he spilled coffee on his
It's like, oh my
computer.
God.
I was like,
I feel
yes,
so
dude.
bad. No.
So satisfying.
No,
it is
it
satisfying.
wasn't.
Because he finally gets to go and
No.
get help. He needs help.
No, I was like so mad when that happened. I was like, I don't want to pour the tea, but I don't want to yell at your dad. So I'm like, oh, pour the tea. And then he pours it. And I'm like, no, the computer.
No, but this game is toxic. That's the problem. What he's working on is toxic.
But it was
It's tearing him
so cool.
apart.
Yeah, but I'd still complete it.
Because I don't think there's...
Tear me apart. It's fine.
No, there is a ending where the game is well reviewed, but I'm trying to remember. Oh, I think that the one ending that does have the game being well received and like gets
It's
all the
when he
stars.
died.
No, he still gets. He's in prison.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We got that ending too with me and Libby. But
So
there's also the other one where it got like, I don't know, like a 3 or something. Like it was still pretty good, but it was when he jumped off the building and they put the game on anyway and somebody else had to finish it. Or maybe it got a bad review actually because somebody else finished it, not
no,
him.
there's multiple scenes with
Yeah.
him ending in prison,
And he's sketching the little thing. It's very disturbing.
and sometimes they're
remember.
good game reviews, and sometimes they're bad reviews. You know.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
By that snotty little brat.
You definitely
It's
learned.
like, why would I care about your opinion?
I definitely
I think
felt
you learned to
hate.
hate him because it also meant that it's the storyline, the timeline that you chose is now over.
It's now
Yeah.
over, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
every time you get to that, you know that he would be there, and you're just like, oh, dude, I just want to have something else,
I don't want
something
to listen
fresh.
to his whiny little brat voice. He sounds like he goes to like a private school.
Oh, wow, okay.
And wears a
Wow.
uniform to
Way to call out
Starts to walk.
private school
Starts to
people.
walk towards the camera, and you're like, "Oh, this again."
He's like,
take a
my
break."
parents have so much money.
yeah.
I have my own TV show.
Well, it makes me think that another movie that had you really like, for me, the most immersive ever been in a movie specifically is Avatar. Specifically, the theater experience. When you saw Avatar 3D in theaters, I'm referring to James Cameron Avatar, by the way.
Not The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
We're talking about the blue people? Okay.
Talking about the blue people or the blue arrow?
That was
Which
like
one
a
are we talking
movie.
about?
Yeah, And seeing that in theaters, there were so many revolutionary things about that movie. It was really like the best. Like I still think it's the best 3D experience we've ever gotten. Like I don't think there's been
3D gives me headaches.
Yeah, I don't like 3D. Doesn't do anything for me.
It's
It just
the
looks like
glasses.
shapes. Yeah.
Yeah.
This
I
is
see like an
another episode.
outline sort of.
See, you're
It
the
doesn't work.
outcast here.
This is the
Listen.
glasses side of the room, and this is.
Wow, you have perfect vision, you horrible human being.
Visually impaired people are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, it also makes me wonder. It's like this is also something that you can't really experience at a theater because this is like, because you wouldn't want to do it. Like it's fun with a friend, but you want to go to a theater and have 1 out of 50 people make all the decisions, you know? Or what? Actually, sorry, changing it on the spot. What if you had like a chair that had like a button for like the 2 decisions, and then it was
And
the majority
everyone could do
vote?
it.
That would
Yeah.
bother me so much.
Yeah, because it wouldn't pick mine every time, probably.
No.
No, it wouldn't be random. It'd be the majority.
Yeah, I
so
know,
say you
but
got
I'm
50.
saying, but
Yeah.
they wouldn't.
I feel like
nobody else
calling
would
out the
do it.
people in the audience who would pick the other
I would
thing.
get
I'd just be
angry.
like, "Yo,
I'd be,
who
like,
picked that?
yelling.
You're disgusting. You're
You're
sick.
disgusting.
What if the
You
chair?
sit on a throne of lies. Get out."
What if the chair glowed in like say like you got 2 different
Oh my god,
buttons
and they
and they had
glowed
different
like
colors?
everyone glowed blue who chose this, and
Yeah.
everyone
Oh, you
can
red
see?
who chose this.
Yeah.
You should just be like, "All right."
I'd be like
I picked-
throttling
I
the
picked
person
red.
next to me.
And then like as you're trying to make your decision, you're seeing like the other chairs light up around you. You're like,
You
I'd be,
uncultured
like,
swine.
seething.
that actually could be kind of cool.
That would be super
I feel
cool.
like a riot would take place. Can you
Yeah.
imagine like people who
They'd
don't
be
know how
like
to?
fist fights.
Can you imagine people who don't know how to control themselves at a movie theater? Like the people
Oh,
who,
that's true.
who talk or speak loudly or just talk to the movie. They're probably the ones who are gonna like freak out when someone else. I mean, I would freak out personally.
Yeah.
But the people who are just they will fight someone.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to go to a public movie theater.
I only remember
like
yelling
that.
a few times in the theater, and like I definitely yelled when Han Solo died. I was just like, no, like it was
Spoiler
full
alert
Darth
for
Vader
Star
moment.
Wars.
I was like,
That's
no.
I screamed in the car on the way home. I was by myself. And I'm just like, Han!
Oh my god, I was so mad.
Bandersnatch though.
Anyway,
I think that it does. It's funny. I literally thought that like there's no way to incorporate this into theater, but honestly, granted, that would, like you said, it might be interesting to see how people would handle it, and it'd be very hard to keep everybody quiet because you'd have that one person who go ranting, where it's like, I want to hear the rest of the movie.
At least.
So-
oh my god.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
sorry.
In a perfect world,
people are divisive enough as
Yeah.
it is, but if we put them in a movie scenario, you want to enjoy it to your fullest experience. And when it feels like if you have control over how the movie is going, that's different from watching a movie that you have to take as it is.
Right.
Because like you can have the chance to choose. Oh, this seems like a good option.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go this way. But when that is taken from you
Yeah.
by somebody else who's in the same room,
like the
just be
person
like,
next to
you
you.
stole this from me.
You press the blue
He's, like,
button
the
and the person
deciding
looks
vote.
at you like, you son of a...
No, it's like everyone's already chosen. You press blue, the person next to you just looks at you and goes red.
I can imagine this like entire line or row of seats who pick like blue, and then you're at the end, you're just like,
Red.
Just cause, even though you know you're not gonna get it,
Yeah.
you just do it just cause.
Or you're like the
and make
deciding vote.
everybody uncomfortable because you just ruined the perfect line.
What if it was
of
like?
red.
What if it was a tally? Also, it was like it would
As
say
you're watching
1,
it.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for red or blue, and then they could look and see like, oh, it's 66 versus 66, and then you'd be this deciding vote, and you'd just be like, boop, and
And
one.
you see the meter go.
We need to copyright this idea.
Yeah, let's
Saying.
trademark it. Sorry idea.
I love this, honestly. I think it'd be, what it would have to be, I think you'd have to do it in a more comedic sense. I think if it was like a very, very serious thing like Black Mirror, I think that's when people would actually start to get more
angry, yeah.
I think you need to have a safer thing to start with if you're going to try
Oh
that
my
concept
goodness. I feel like we've sort of just talked about like a Jackbox TV game.
out. In a way, yeah.
Because we're talking about voting and
Jackbox
stuff.
the movie.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Jackbox the movie.
Oh my god.
Just
Yeah.
have Jackbox in the theater.
Now, obviously, when we're like making decisions and talking about being immersed in something, it starts to get very close to another source of media, obviously being video games. And in video games, we also have these types of video games like Detroit Become Human recently,
dude.
where it's a very cinematic video game where it's got a very like a very tense storyline where it's multiple choice, and it's not just like like a perfect pyramid of things. It's like it's very like it's just how like in Black Mirror, very weighted decisions, and you've also got the occasional.
What's the Walking Dead one? There's that one too.
No, that's like the Telltale games. That's different because a lot of the decisions in that is irrelevant. Where it's like, oh, this person would have died either way, or like.
Well, kind of like the drug thing. That was like a irrelevant question.
Exactly, stuff like that. That was one of the exceptions in that. Not many of your decisions were like that.
Yeah.
And same thing in Detroit Become Human.
Well, no, Detroit Become Human. It's basically like every choice you make will affect it dramatically usually. Because I was watching our friends play it.
And almost immediately.
Yeah, it was disturbing, and it's like that's the thing that bothers me so much because I want to know what the content is, but when there's so much content and there's so many different ways to go, like you can't follow.
You have that like completionist in you that you want to know all of it.
And then you just get tired of it. If you want to go back, if you want to like know what happens to the other ones, one, you can just go on YouTube and watch someone else do it and save your time. But you might also or you'd have to go and you'd have to relive or rewatch or replay whatever the entire thing over and over and over again, and that bugs me so much. It's kind of like when you're playing. Well, if you're playing a video game and you lose a life and you try to do the same thing, you lose a life again, and then you're just trying to figure out how to get past like a monster or something.
Right.
It's just same thing over and over again. If you don't save the content, basically.
It's Dark Souls.
Shh. You died. Yeah. So I think it's interesting because when we have Detroit Become Human, like obviously that's a better example of that video game side of interactive storytelling. But in like Black Mirror, Bandersnatch, that's even though it's interactive and a lot closer to video games, still heavily planted with being a movie. Where does that line start to get blurred? Where like how interactive can films be? How non-interactive can video games be?
I mean,
this was a live-action video game, basically. That's pretty much all.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's like if it's live action, it's more like a movie. If it's like an animated,
is that
thing,
the only difference?
That's a huge difference. That's the only one. That's literally the only one I can think of, though.
Well, another thing that was interesting is that because of the nature of it being live action, is that when you like made a decision, it didn't happen right away. Like you have to wait for the time to come out because that's how they filmed it, you know. And
like that,
when in a video game, you make a decision immediately, it goes on to whatever you decided. Yeah. So also in video games, you have quick time actions. You don't have that in the film.
You also have time to choose, which is nice.
Yeah, some things give you a timer, but
well, Detroit Become Human, you had a fair amount of time to choose, I think.
Yeah. And then also, with the film thing, it's just decision making. But then, like, in Detroit Become Human, you're moving around. You've also got these, like, since it was a PlayStation exclusive, they were using some of the motion control aspects of your controller. Like, turn this light switch on. So you go move up your controller, like, physically. And, like, just stuff like that. Like, just to make it feel more video gamey and not just, like, you're watching something, you're just pressing buttons. It's, like, kind of up the...
So now, the actual motion of a controller does help you out. Like, you remember back in the day when you just move your controller all the time, you'd be like, I'm driving, move it to the left, move it to the right.
Makes it turn
and that's actually how you play Mario Kart now, so...
Yeah, so...
Yeah. Dude, I remember playing Mario Kart with my DS and just like,
I do it with the GameCube. I'm just like, move it over back behind my head.
Just throw it behind you. Do a backflip.
My brother would just be like, you don't have to do that. And I'm like, yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
I used to cream my brothers in that game.
Great job.
It's just good memories.
It's satisfying. I don't win at any games.
I don't win any games.
Not even Bandersnatch.
How interactive, like, how much further do you think they could push the envelope for something like Bandersnatch before you would have to start seriously considering, am I watching something or am I playing something?
I don't know. I thought they had a pretty good setup already.
No, I know. I'm not saying that they were pushing the envelope,
yeah.
But say they want to do more than this. How much further do you think? How much more could they add before you have to start considering, is this actually something I'm watching or something I'm playing?
I think if you're actually controlling their movements,
that goes right to gameplay mode right there.
I don't know how you do that with live action people.
Well, you could. It kind of reminds me of the Nancy Drew games, that type of style game, where you're not like moving step per step. You're just like, you've got arrows, like go into this room or go into that room, and then you're like, look at this object closer. It's like point and click type stuff.
Well,
like,
if you did that for interactive film, I don't feel like it would
exactly
really be
like
film
that
anymore.
would yeah.
Because you
obsolete.
can't really film. It would just be like a still screen almost for each one, unless you filmed each individual spot. Like that
Right.
would be crazy.
So, because then it also makes me think, so it's like, okay, so then we're flipping on the other side. So, if a video game didn't have control over the character's movement, is that enough to make it start wondering, am I just watching this or am I playing it? Because sometimes people have that with the Telltale games already. Like, they don't feel like they're doing enough. I'm like, really? It doesn't feel like I'm playing a video game. I'm just kind of pressing buttons,
That's
watching something.
really why I don't play those so much. Because like if I feel like playing a video game, I feel like playing a video game. Like I don't feel like watching something. I want to be doing something with my fingers. Like
Right. If you want to watch something, just go to the cutscenes on YouTube. People make a compilation, and then you're fine.
Yeah.
That's how I watched Injustice. It was good. I was like, this should be a movie. And it wasn't.
And it wasn't. It's still a better movie than DC.
Still better than Justice League.
God, I didn't even want to watch that.
It's not worth it.
Where
Aquaman though.
Aquaman, though.
did you find that when you're playing this, did you feel like, because then you start thinking like
Playing or
everybody,
watching?
yeah, when you're watching this, it's really cool because it's kind of like a really first of its kind. Netflix experimented with a Minecraft movie and a Puss in Boots like thing for kids to test out the functionality of interactiveness on Netflix as a platform, the technology behind it.
Cool, we're using kids as lab rats now.
Well, their
Great job,
reasoning behind
Netflix. We
it
knew you had it in you.
was they said that if they could get kids to make it work, and if they could get kids to like it, then they could take it a step further and actually work it into other things.
Work it into adults.
Which I think was kind of funny because they literally went from Minecraft to like Black Mirror, so they went from like 0 to 100. You know,
Yeah.
like you gave it to like the people who they would know that would take this to the limit. You know.
Yeah, not on my Christian Minecraft server. I don't want that.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder though, because everybody was really into this because it was like revolutionary. It was like kind of a real first of its kind. Yeah, this is not like the first ever interactive like film thing that we've had, but this is the first one to do it in this context through a streaming service, through a way that actually has this complex of a story. Because I think that's why they gave it to the Black Mirror team, because they know they would give it an actual complex storyline. They didn't do like a classic, just like, oh, 2 distance up here, 2 distance up here, and just like, it felt way more complicated than that, and it made you not go so linearly. It made you go like backtrack a little bit, go this way, try something new, and
I want to meet the people who made it and see if they're just as nuts as the kid in the show.
Probably. After making that,
You have to
they
be a
would've been
little
like, this is
bit.
super
Yeah,
meta.
you'd have to
there's
be
a
little
certain amount of
crazy.
nuts you have to be.
Yeah. We went a little bonkers.
But yeah, so like everybody was into this because it was like a new thing to take part of and see what you think, and like, wow, I can like interact with a Netflix thing. It was like a novelty. But so if this becomes a new normal thing that we see on Netflix and other streaming services for that matter, what kind of context are you gonna be in where you go to like, I'm gonna watch an interactive film? Like, what kind of mood do you have to be to like go and do that?
Probably with my boyfriend.
Yeah, I don't like.
That totally sounds like
when I
something I
watch
do with Chris.
when I watch something, I don't want to have to really do anything. You know, like if I might put something on while I'm working on something.
Right, because you want to multitask.
Yeah,
But you can't
Well,
multitask with this.
It's just a little more difficult. It's not like
I don't think I'd do it alone so often. I think I'd want somebody
it
else
does
to
feel
do it
like
with
an
me.
experience that you do with
'Cause
someone
it's
else.
yeah, it was way more fun doing it with Libby, and I think if I did something like that, I'd want to do it with Chris too. So.
Oh, I would have hated it if I did this by myself.
Yeah,
Bandersnatch, I
it
would've
was
been like,
fun to do it together, you know?
Yeah, it was honestly kind of lame the first time I did it by myself, and it was like Friday night, and I just had a full work week, and I'm like falling asleep. I'm like, no, stay awake. But when I did it with Libby, it was.
And then it was
fun.
cool because it was also like we worked together to do it, but then when we watched Wesley, it was also equally as enjoyable to not even have any say in the
Do
decision.
anything
was watching
and just
someone
watch somebody-
else.
See,
Yeah.
it was way more fun to watch somebody else just do it.
Yeah, because then you're watching someone else make the decisions when
Yeah.
you've already made decisions.
you're
just
like, "Oh, which one's he
what
gonna
are you
choose?"
gonna
Oh
do?
yeah, every
huh?
time they make a decision, you're like,
Interesting choice.
I know.
You make
I
them
think-
second guesses. Like, did I do it wrong? He's like, you'll find out.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It's like you're one of the creators now. You're just like, we'll see how it goes.
I must be way too much like Libby though, because we pretty much chose almost everything the same. She didn't take the drugs. She didn't kill the dad. She didn't do.
Well, at first, Wesley started out to do this, like, for the first half, Wesley did almost identical to what we did.
He picked,
and then
like,
he went, like,
cereal
way off
and-
course.
Yes.
She even picked the same cereal and the same music.
Yeah,
He did
and
the
then-
Netflix ending pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But then he got, he when it came to endings, he got a lot of different endings that we never got before. Which was great for us because they're like, oh, we get to see this stuff, you know. But yeah, it was definitely an experience. I definitely agree that this is something that makes a lot more sense with people, and not so much by yourself because it was.
When I'm by myself watching TV, I just want to be a couch potato. I
Yeah,
don't want to have
yeah.
to lift my arm and press a button.
The most movement I need to do while watching TV is just moving from my food to my mouth.
I was just
That's
gonna
all I
say,
want.
like,
Yeah.
hand in the chip bag, hand out the chip bag.
Eating my almonds.
So if this is something that's like to do with other people, where does this rank among other interactive things that you can do with friends? So like, would you choose this? Would you choose this over a normal movie? Would you choose this over playing a game or video game with another person?
I would choose it over a normal movie with people.
Okay.
Because I think it'd be way more fun than just watching. Because you're just sitting there and you're not talking to each other. And that's what I hate about movies. Is like if you're trying to spend time with somebody, I like talking to them. So it'd be way more fun that way.
That's true.
Unless you're watching a
Because
very
if I'm wanting
bad
to see
movie.
somebody,
If you're watching
Yeah.
a very bad movie,
That
you
is
guys can just
kinda
like,
hilarious.
you know,
Like, with the commentary, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Or
just
like
crap
if
on it,
you
be like,
watched
"Oh,
the
it's
movie already and then you go and watch it again and you just make fun of it, that's great.
That is great, yeah.
Because you got to sit through it the first time. That's what I did with the Star Wars.
yeah, it's like movie science theater. You're just
The
like,
Force
you're in the
Awakens.
background. You're like, all right, this is weird.
Just like that.
Yeah, just like that.
What else? Something I was thinking about of how this could be in the future, because obviously this was successful. No surprise, really. I think we all knew that when we saw that Black Mirror was going to be doing an interactive special, all of us were like, this is going to be good. Like, they're already pushing the envelope for what we're used to seeing on TV, and you give them this type of thing to work with, they were just like
Yeah.
drooling.
Yeah, it was definitely super trippy.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't have to take the drugs to be on drugs while you're doing it.
Well, because Black Mirror was doing it, that's why it kind of got
really
my
worked.
attention. Well, if it wasn't Black Mirror, honestly, I would have seen it and it would just been like,
Yeah, you see, that's another question that we'll get to later.
That's
is
actually
this
good because I did not know what Black Mirror was when I did it.
Really?
So, no, I
you,
had no
you
idea.
haven't watched any Black Mirror?
Nope.
Wow.
Wow.
Honestly,
Good
I
for
don't even
you.
know what it is.
There's been
So.
a-
Yeah, stay happy.
It's a lot of. I will say the main difference between this and the rest of the stuff is that Black Mirror is almost like a modern Twilight Zone.
I thought you were going to
there's-
say modern Twilight. I'm like, look.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Why?
It's like a modern-
I'm like, does the vampire
so
sparkle?
the only thing that's really holding it together because the stuff it's in the same universe, but it's not like a series. Like it's a standalone episode for each and every single thing in Black Mirror
an
because it's a TV.
anthology.
Yeah, it's a TV show, but every episode stands alone.
That
But
sounds cool.
the thing that they have in common, it's all about taking something that's in the near future, a technology that we already have or imagine having, and taking it to the extreme.
Yeah.
You know, so they
making it a
experiment with some
reality.
ideas of like, this is a great, like, say, like Facebook is like, or like, they literally have an episode of like, what a Tinder app could look like to the extremes of an extreme. And it's like, it's really, like, it's a blend of fascinating and like
I just wanna watch the
disturbing
Tinder
and
one
just,
now.
and they're also, more than half the Black Mirror episodes don't end well. They're not shy about giving not a crappy ending,
But like a sad or a bad or something that makes you feel.
and I will say, it's really great because it keeps you on your toes because you don't know if it's going to end. And also, they're all different episode lengths, so sometimes you don't even know. It's like, when's it going to end? Like,
I want to
is it
watch
gonna be-
this now.
Oh no,
But
I
like
can't
you're right
recommend
though
it.
when you said the first time, it's like if you didn't know what Black Mirror was, you'd probably be kind of like about the interactive film because I totally was until you're like you should try it. I'm like I guess I'll try it.
Yeah.
I was like I kind of like this.
So that's the thing is that I don't know if other companies could do it as well as them because kind of like the Avatar thing that I mentioned.
They're
You know,
very
like
imaginative.
once they did it, people were like, "Yo, 3D's actually legit." Because before Avatar, I was just saying this to somebody the other week. You had like animated films making like these scenes that were so obviously cheap and just for 3D effect. I remember
Yeah.
literally one of the first 3D
I know, they were
movies I
pretty
saw.
lame.
No, it wasn't. It was not a 3D movie that I saw in 3D. It was a movie made with 3D in mind. I think it was.
You ever got them where you get a movie from the store on the street or something, and you get the 3D glasses with it, and you're watching
Yeah.
it on your TV. Yeah, and it's just
Well,
super
there was-
Watching it in
cheesy.
red and blue, and you're
Well,
like,
Yeah, it's just
Well,
real cheesy.
there was I think it was Monsters vs. Aliens, if you remember that, like random like animated like rip-off of Megamind, basically.
No,
like,
oh
came out
my
afterwards.
gosh.
Yeah.
I do remember that
So
one.
in the beginning, one of the first few scenes, there's a scene with like this guy in the office who's swiveling on a chair, and he's got one of those. I don't know what you call it. One of those
ping pong balls
ping
with
pong
a
with
string.
string,
yeah.
yeah.
And he was doing it, and then he went to do it right at the camera, and it was so blatantly obvious that they did that just to wow the audience. That 3D, look at it, it's going right at your face. And so like a lot of things were super gimmicky, and then Avatar came out with like an actual serious film to be properly, because when they filmed it, they also filmed it like within mind to be like 3D oriented, because you could tell a difference between the movies that are adapted for 3D and ones that are shot in such a way where it's much easier to apply 3D afterwards, because it's, you know, like the difference of like seeing a movie actually in 3D and the difference between looking at what looks like a picture with 3 layers.
Yeah.
You know? So, and Avatar did it so well, it's like, wow, that's awesome. But then like no one really did it as well as they did, even to this day, really, you know? And I just don't think that people
It's because they
care
took
as much.
every little part and they made it its own like 3D part, but like you're doing the other movies and it's like we pick this one object to make it the big one
Mm-hmm.
and this one to make it the small one. So,
You know, and it's kind of interesting, you know, looking at possible parallels. Is this going to be another one of those cases where Black Mirror kicked it out of the park with this concept, especially because it was so meta? Like you couldn't pick a better storyline for this concept, you know?
yeah.
Is it going to be essentially impossible to follow this up? How are people going to follow this up? Because I'd imagine that Black Mirror is not going to be the only resource from Netflix allowed to use this anymore. Now they're going to like, okay,
Yeah.
we've proven a concept. Now they're probably going to be looking at multiple companies to work with it at once. So it's not just going to
They're
hand
gonna
it off
pop
to another
up
company.
everywhere.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
But I was just wondering what it would look like. You know, we talked about how it could be difficult applying in a movie standard like they did. But one way I could see it working differently is that what if they somehow applied it in a TV show where it's almost kind of like how a video game, you know, where you play it for yourself and you have your own storyline and it's like 8 to 20 hours of content, right? Like a movie is like only 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, but would it have like a specific ending point every time?
Well, what if it was a TV show where like there was a certain amount of content given to you, kind of like how Telltale worked, right? Where they had certain episodes and you play up to that point where they would give you this piece and then you like played it for yourself and
you
you
chose where
almost
to
made
stop
the
at?
story yourself. You know, it's like this like interactive TV show that's like really well produced, and it would be interesting because, you know, being longer, choice would be way wider and they have to make so much more content,
man,
but
that
basically
took
giving you
forever.
like a personal experiences of like the TV show is what you want it to be, and it gets more and I think the fascinating thing about it being a TV show is that by the end you could have literally like a different show by the end of it than someone completely different, you know. I don't know if that's something that could be pulled off. Like it could be like a cultural phenomenon where you're constantly comparing like, oh,
Yeah.
like what do you have
What
in your
ending
TV?
did you get?
Well, not
It'd
even
be
just
way too
endings.
expensive though. I think it
I
would
was
be
gonna- it would
much
take
more
a long
expensive,
time.
and it wouldn't be worth it in the end. In my
But then you
opinion.
could also but then
They'd
I think
rush
you
it and they'd
I
get a
think
bad review from long-haired.
if they made it, I think
Yeah.
this is an opportunity to where you could charge like a video game. You charge a price specifically for this one content. So this wouldn't be something that you would just get with your Netflix subscription. This is like almost like not a subscription, but you would pay like say $20 for this TV experience, and you would get basically DLC every month where you get a new episode and you play, and then you get a whole like personalized storyline because of all the stuff that
You'd have to be really into it because I don't think I'd pay money.
Oh, yeah, no, I
already have
DLCs
my
are annoying enough,
subscription.
but having to pay for like a story, that's just that's a ripoff
It better
right
be a
there.
heck of a story.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if they like advertise something like, "Oh, the Avengers are going to be in it," I'd be like,
well, because
An interactive Avengers movie, I would play.
yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I would pay for that. But
See,
it
because then
depends.
we're talking about like that's I think as far as you could take it and still be considering it like TV and not a video game. You know, because we're talking about paying for it like a separate thing. That's how video games work.
Yep.
You know, Telltale is, I think, as close as you can get, like, to TV from the video game spectrum of stuff. And I think, like you said, I think a big key difference is seeing it in live action or animated. I think that does definitely have an impact on how you perceive it. But yeah, I was just wondering, like, because we're so used to seeing this idea just in movie formats. Like, what if someone tried to push it to like the extreme and like somehow made it work in a TV aspect?
They would actually go crazy. 'Cause that would be really hard.
They would be like Stefan in this.
I think that again, they filmed 5 hours worth of content. It took a long time to.
They had to delay the next season of Black Mirror to put more time into this, basically, because it was bigger than I thought.
It must have been terrible because with actors, like, they do have to redo shots and everything. But with that one, it's not just redoing scenes and shots and stuff. It's doing it in a different way or taking it to a different part. And I think that would be way too much, like, in my opinion. It'd just be way too much for the actors and for the people making it.
Well, I think... I think that you could be right, but then again, I'd like to think that what we think is impossible within film and media is not as impossible as we think goes. Ask someone 15 years ago if a show like Game of Thrones was possible. Someone spending that much money on a TV show and it actually still making money. You see, like, no, that's impossible. You can't make like a Lord of the Rings quality TV show, like seasons upon seasons, expect to get the content out. Because then you're thinking about, you're filming like 10 hours worth of stuff, and a movie you're only doing like 2 hours. So you think, like, how can you match the quality of a 2-hour thing of media for 10 hours? Like, that's exponentially more expensive. And you think that that makes no sense. It's way too much for all like the people involved, like that. But it exists despite that, and it's wildly successful. Like, Game of Thrones was one of the, not the first, but one of the first to like really mainstream that concept. And now we see almost majority of the biggest TV shows are now high budget. Like the sitcom, cheap type TV shows, most of those, that's not the trend anymore. You know, they still are popular and they still exist, but the shows that everybody's talking about on TV are much higher production, high investment shows type of shows now. We're not seeing the cheap. And I think it also has to do with the fact that we're now going away more and more from cable, and we're used to the streaming services where higher production stuff makes more sense.
I haven't had cable my entire life. I'm not even kidding.
I think once we actually got it, we just didn't use it like at all.
Well, because it came with our internet package, like I'm sure many of you have.
I had like PBS, and that was it.
PBS.
I watched like Clifford and Arthur, and on occasion we had such limited TV time. Where
I watched VHS.
We watched a lot of Steve Irwin. Tons of VHS tapes. Oh, he was
classic.
I love him. Yeah. He made me love snakes and alligators. Nice.
With all this being said, as we like try to picture where this type of media can take us in, like, I guess like the best thing I could think of is just interactive film. I don't know. There's not like, it doesn't have like its own type of like
genre.
Not genre. Its own type of like what you would call, like you've got movies, you got TV, you got podcasts, you got video, like you got like in video games, like it's all got its own names, but this we're calling, like, it's still a part of film, ?
Yeah,
but is there
what is its actual title?
Right. At any point will this get, I think we know if it becomes successful, if it gets its own subcategory of media, if we eventually call it some specific type where it's no longer interactive media, it's called like X, like whatever that name be, where it's now its subcategory of media consumption, you know, and
but they'd have to make a lot more content.
Well, yeah, and it has to be a proven concept that's worth investing in and all that kind of stuff. And basically, I was saying that if we get to that point, that's how we know that it's staying. You know, if we can make it into a subcategory of media. But for now, we're just, as it's still in very beta/concept origins, we still label it as interactive films. And because when you tell somebody an interactive film, you don't really know what they mean by that yet. So right now, the main part they have to do is start educating people. They have to get this out there more. They have to explain that this is something that's going to be more common and something that to look out for and be a fan of.
It's a pet name. Like instead of television, it's TV.
Yeah.
Abbreviations.
Yeah.
That's where it's at.
Because then you can have someone who's like, I really, really like interactive media, and that's the main type of media I want to consume. Because you got people who like video games, but I mean, you see the culture now where Let's Plays are popular. People like watching video games. This is a very similar thing where it's like you can feel a part of it, but you're not feeling like there's any skill involved. And a lot of people like those types of video games that don't really involve skill, and it's more of just the really deep storylines with an extra level of connection through interaction.
I just cannot play those.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the ones that I don't have time actually playing.
I know. I'm just like, I want to get my shooty on.
My shoes.
That's all I got.
Gotta get that fix.
Gotta get my Battlefield in.
But yeah, so do you think, like in your personal opinion, there's no right or wrong answer for this, do you think that that's a reality that can happen? Where this becomes its own subcategory of media?
I think it could, because people are going to just get bored with the other stuff and want something new. So I think it's going to happen no matter what.
I don't know. I feel like with this, it's more effort that people don't want to put into something. Because if you want to put effort into something, you play like the video games.
People are just getting lazier, so.
Yeah. So
this is a lazy man's video game.
I need to be invested right away. But if it involves like me actually having to do something, if I'm not invested in it, then of course I'm not going to play it. Or watch it, I guess, or both, which is what that is.
Crap! You made me think of something that I was trying to remember. I think that it's definitely, and I think, this was it. You mentioned that, like people want something new, and I think that's because like the latest form of media, because it's weird that the reason why I'm talking about this today that I find so fascinating is that this is the first time that we've had a serious contender for a new type of media. We think about music and then when that was created. We think about film and then when that was created. Podcasts is a fairly recent thing in like the past few decades. Where people would make shows. I mean, you had like radio shows. That was like essentially your first form of podcast. But podcasts really became what they are today when you had
podcasts
iTunes.
Became the Netflix of radio.
Yeah.
The streaming service of radio, sort of.
That's exactly what it is.
So when it comes to new, like we've had video games, like really in its full sense now since the 80s. Obviously video games existed before the 80s, but that's when video games became something that's in your home and more a consumable type of content and not just some cool experience that you can take part of. For instance, like you could go to like some sort of type of like 3D show or like a 5D experience type show, but that's like its own separate like almost like tourist attraction type thing. And so like that's a different type of media, if you will, but it's not like a consumer based thing. This is the first contender that we've seen in who knows how long.
Yeah, because wasn't like 4D trying to become a thing and that never really...
Yeah, well, it's always gimmicks,
Yeah.
And I mean, 3D was still in gimmick territory even on its second comeback, or first comeback, on its comeback since the 90s or 80s whenever they first came out with the 3D glasses and like, hey, it's back.
Yeah.
Hey, how fun is this? And everybody was like, oh, extra money, we charge extra for tickets and all these gimmick things. And then Avatar came in and is like, look, no, this is, we're actually going to
do it the right way.
Yeah. And so then that's when 3D stuck around.
Yeah, I think 4D is just too hard to do because I remember doing one at like the aquarium at one point and they had like something that flutters your feet, miss your face, and I'm like, well, it's not going to be the same for every movie. And I felt weird that they were touching me.
Because here's the thing, my problem with 4D is that say their version of 4D is having some theaters will have like, we'll like give you a burst of smell of something, or we'll make you feel wind,
water,
or little spritz of water, and it's like. But it's not truly 4D because basically when you're talking about different dimensions, you're talking about a full another sense. So you can have some sense of smell in the movie. You can some sense of like immersion with the wind and water, stuff like that. But you're not incorporating all of that. Just certain like
Just
highlights.
certain parts. Yeah, exactly.
So it's not the full extra dimension. It's just like little bits and pieces. So like for instance,
that's like a thing of way in the future.
right. So like if you have an explosion on screen, right? You wouldn't feel even in a 4D experience, you wouldn't feel the heat off of that, or you wouldn't feel like the burst of like a sound wave.
You wouldn't get the radiation poisoning, or like frizzy hair.
It's not 4D.
This isn't accurate at all. I'm not dead.
If I'm not mutated when I leave this theater, it's not good enough for me.
I don't have superpowers. You get my money back. I want it.
You watch Spider-Man and everybody gets bit by a radioactive spider, like in the theater.
That'd be amazing. Oh man. But yeah, so this is why I find this so fascinating is that this has the true potential to be like I said, a whole new subcategory in media, and why the media label is important because it's not like a new genre of like a movie or a TV show. It's not a new genre of video games. It's a whole new it's like coming up with a different way to do music entirely. You know, it's like once you open up, a good example, electronic music. When electronic music came into it, at first we all thought it was like, it's all like techno and dubstep. But then as it got more developed, electronic music literally became its own
it turned into
type
like
of music.
House and like, what are the other ones called?
Well, because now you even have like pop electronic music, and you have you can incorporate electronic music
Trap.
into every type of genre of music to where it's now its own full, like electronic music in itself has almost as many genres as music outside of electronic music. Like it's become so diverse in what is under that umbrella, and I think that's one of the more recent like changes in media, because music is a type of media.
Yeah.
So like that's one of the more recent revolutions
Just
of like
there's different kinds of music. There's country music, there's rock music, there's R&B, there's blah blah blah. Like
yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what this changes, not just for film, not just for video games, but as media consumption as a whole, how it changes the entire thing. Because like I said, right now we see two main ways to utilize this for kids and for like really, really dramatic storytelling.
The lab rats.
Yeah, the lab rats, yeah. But if this is something that really takes off, then we can expect all those subcategories to flesh out. And now we have every type of film being multiple choice. We have comedy-related things being multiple choice. We have sitcoms being yes.
Is it gonna be funny? We don't know.
You chose the joke that's more funny.
Oh my god.
But like we laugh at it, but like there's a lot of things that we used to laugh at that we think that wouldn't be possible. Like, because when we look at podcasting, now there's every type, because podcasting used to be just like news oriented.
Yeah,
you know?
or you could fly like a bird in the sky. Haha.
And now it's like, we're going to incorporate comedic podcast. And then it started to like, now you can have sports pod. Now you can have any type of podcast. Now they make movies.
You can talk about the clothes you're wearing without actually showing anybody now.
You can make movies now in podcast form. Like people have gone to the point where like they have whole productions in sound design to make you as immersed as possible, where it's almost
that would be pretty cool. Actually, I haven't listened to any of those.
When we were talking about, they have the X-Men series that's like that, where it's like an intense audiobook where it's not just someone reading like thematically to you. It's like having a whole sound design that's made specifically to help you visualize in your head what you're listening to.
Yeah, but the thing is that there's already, with audiobooks, yes, there's reading done, but they also have like sound effects and voice actors for that too. So it's still, I feel like, a little too similar to regular audiobooks, but without a narrator, basically.
Yeah, but with most audiobooks, you have one person doing all the voices, and you don't usually have any sound effects.
No, not for the like average podcast, or not audiobook.
And that's what I mean. There are exceptions, but I'm saying that
there's a fair amount of exceptions though, and they've been going on for a while too.
What I'm saying is that now there is a subcategory of podcast where they're trying to give you the most movie-like experience without showing any visual. So like I'm saying, like they go all out with the sound effects, they go all out with the music, they have an actual cast of like real voice actors doing all these characters, and with the sole objective to give you just as an immersive experience as a movie without any visuals, because they're like trying to push it. So they're not just trying to give you enough information to enjoy it as there's no visuals. They're trying to push the limits of how immersed can you get solely with it. Not just enough, like more than enough, you know, where in a way, you know how books can be more immersive because, you know, you're allowed to like just kind of wander in your own head and like make it for yourself. This is trying to fill in most of the...
than anything.
Yeah. And this is trying to like do as much of that heavy lifting for you as possible, where now you're like, it is almost visual because you're visioning it in your head. It's like, that's the only piece that's missing, and then you're subconsciously just like literally watching the movie in your head because it's like you just feel like you're listening to an actual movie.
I remember getting so into it that my parents had to like physically put something in front of my face so I wouldn't realize they were talking to
Yeah,
me.
just like zoning.
All I
Is
did
it
was
kinda-
read books.
Is it kind of meta that we're talking about podcasts on a podcast?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Not as still not as meta as that Black Mirror.
Yeah. Oh,
Bandersnatch.
nothing's as meta as Black Mirror, honestly.
Yeah. But yeah, I solely want to see this become a thing because I just love the idea of the possibilities of there being a whole new outlet of media. I think that would be fascinating to me, and I think it'd be so cool to see what revolutionary stuff we see in media as a whole. You know, because I think that right now all the examples that we could think of it outside of like Black Mirror is all gimmicky, but that was the same thing for like 3D. That's all we had, you know, all the cash grab quick things, you know, like how can we, you know, wow people really quick, you know, and they're all gimmicky and they're just like, it's a flash in the pan type stuff where like you see it once and you're like, wow, and then you see it again and you're like, all right, it's old.
Yeah.
So it's like you're gonna run out of that stuff really quickly, and I feel like I'm almost worried that, you know, I feel like Netflix is going to do a fair job at it. I trust them more than other companies in this situation where they're not just going to completely sell out that type of technology. I feel like they're going to be a little bit smarter about it because they actually want to make this thing happen. So they're going to be careful about who they give it to and not just like, literally everyone make interactive film, please. You know, they're like, no, we'll give it to a couple more companies that we have a good reason to believe that you guys will do something that's worth watching,
Yeah.
and then continue to
So
develop
they don't
this.
destroy it.
Right, because they almost lost 3D. 3D almost went into non-existent. People were ready to be completely done with that, and then Avatar saved it. And now, because of that, it's now a permanent thing, and people are more or less applying it correctly, you know? And so I think that this is going to have to be a similar situation where can this survive the tide of the first wave of gimmicky, not the best uses of interactive film before we see the stuff that we literally never thought of before that doesn't exist yet for interactive film that changes the scene like forever, you know?
I just feel like it's more of a commitment than I'm willing to put up with when going on Netflix. I go on Netflix just to relax. I don't go on it to be like, I want to do something interactive.
Well, I think this would actually, it'd be interesting to for people to consider what market is it competing for? Is it competing with the video game market, or is it competing with the film market? And
both. Both is good.
We'll take you both on. Come at me.
That's Netflix for you.
Yeah, I would like to think that it leans more towards the video game aspect, not because of the people who play video games, but for the people who enjoy video games, specifically the people who watch video games online. You know, the casual video gamers, which there's so many of them, because not just about every person likes video games to an extent. You know, because there's people like who will love the hardcore stuff, you know, and they'll do all competitive gaming, all that stuff, and then you'll have the totally opposite end where people like, yeah, I like playing a game or two on my mobile, or
my mom plays Call of Duties.
yeah, or I like playing
Cool
Jackbox
mom.
games, you know, with my friend, you know,
She
just
plays
like
Call
real
of Duty
casual
zombies
stuff. But I
with
feel
us.
like everybody likes gaming to an extent, you know, because I mean, I always say that because everybody loves board games, so this
No, they
is just,
don't. Everybody doesn't love board
Yeah,
games.
no.
There's a lot of people who hate board games.
Name one person who hates board games.
I don't like having to learn new stuff, so I don't. It's
don't
not like
particularly like
I'm not like, oh
board
boy, board games if it's like a new game.
I know, but you still like the
BLRED
concept of
Yeah,
board games,
but
and you'll-
just because I still like board games, there's a lot of people who don't like board games.
They're
Like
different.
Name one. Who
I
doesn't
don't.
like board games?
Well, I haven't gone up to Ben and like, hey, do you hate board games? I'm
No,
not
I
gonna go
know.
up to somebody down the
but
street.
you say there's tons of people, but you don't know anybody.
Yeah, well, you don't know any serial killers, but they're out there. So
Oh,
say.
okay. If there,
got
don't
a
drop
point.
this mic. But
He's
if I
got a
had
point.
another mic to give you, I'd let you drop it. It's fair.
Jeez.
Yeah. No. I can't argue with that.
There's haters everywhere, Will. I'm just saying. If you say everybody loves something, there's somebody out there who's gonna be like, no, I don't.
Hey, there's some people who can't even finish a movie, so.
I mean, that's me. I can't do it all the time.
Hey.
I go 5 minutes in, I'm just like, this movie's boring.
The only time I don't finish a movie is when I fall asleep.
Oh,
Yeah.
well. Good
And
for
there's
you.
never been a book I haven't finished, so.
Really?
Yep.
Good for you.
Wow.
I'm so bad
That's
about
actually-
that. I
Really?
used to
That's
read a
super
lot.
That's something that people don't do.
I get to slow down and then sort of stop.
I've never stopped reading a book. I've always, like, even if I hated it, I've still finished it.
That's really good because it just feels like obviously it's unfinished stuff.
I can't leave it unfinished. I have to finish it.
Well, that's
Isn't books the
Every single
first
book on my
type
bookshelf I've read.
of like consumable media? I think it barely
depends
predates
on what you mean by media, I'd say.
No, I think you're right.
because I think it predates music. I'm pretty
No,
sure.
No, music's always
been
been
around
around.
for a while. People have been
Music's
singing a lot.
always been around.
They've been, making
I don't think there's
shaking
ever-
things.
I don't
whatever
think
they call
there's
it.
ever been a time
So
when there hasn't
here's the
been
thing:
music.
music has existed before writing, but not in a consumable way.
I don't know about that.
You could
People
always-
share music. People share
Yeah.
songs. So
Yeah, they do.
Oh yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I don't think music was before everything. I don't think there's
Okay.
anything that was before music.
yeah, I'm sorry.
It's just-
Because, I mean, even before people knew everyone's like everyone can enjoy music. No matter, doesn't matter what language it's in. But if it's like a book, it's not in your language, and you're screwed.
Well, you know what's funny
Or
is
if
that
it's story, not your language.
you had books, you had music, and you had like in-person video games. You had like basic like type like chess type games and stuff like that. And then those were pretty existed early on in civilization. And then you had no other development in consumable media until literally like the last like 100 years. Like, isn't that kind of crazy? Like, all these things literally only exist in like our lifetime, when literally there's like an entire, like basically almost the entire existence of humans as a whole.
What
where
about
there's
sports?
no development.
Sports has still been like a thing for a while.
But that's not media,
No, that's not media. They just made it media by broadcasting.
right?
Before
Because I
that
think
was
that
in.
that's kind of included more in the TV umbrella of consumable media. Even though it's not a scripted thing, you would still consider a news broadcast a TV like type media.
But with board games and such, it's not really like media per se either. I mean, it's something that you do by yourself or with other people, but then you share it on with like someone else. And it's kind of like the same thing with actual games. You know, like athletic games basically. Like you learn it, somebody else learns it. You show someone else how to do it basically, and it's on and on and on basically. So I don't see that there's much difference between like if you're saying that board games is media, then I say you have to make like sports or some sort of
Well, I don't say board game. I'm using board games as a more broader term of like physical in-person type games. Because when I say games, when you say game to someone, you actually probably think of video games before you think of board game type stuff. So me saying board games is clarifying, not digital games, is more physical games. Because then when I say board games, I'm also including card games and just all that broad stuff.
All right.
But yeah, because obviously there's subcategories within subcategories of stuff, but when you're talking about main branches of things, because I think the interesting, and kind of bringing it back here, the interesting thing about interactive film is that it kind of has an awkward place where it doesn't really know whether to fall under the defined umbrella of film or video games. And I think that's why it has an argument to just being its own thing, because I think that as you develop this technology more, you start to wonder, it's not a video game, but it really isn't like a traditional type of film or TV. So then you kind of have to just like move it over into its own thing. Where now I imagine you have a separate streaming service, and Netflix could totally do this, where it's like you buy this subscription and everything within this subscription is interactive. Because then it'd be easier to
Makes
market
sense
to
to
those
people
type of
interested
people
in
that enjoy that kind of content. So I guess a good way to finish this off is that if you could have any other piece of content made into interactive media, what would it be?
Deadpool.
How would you see that going down?
I don't know. Hilarious.
Yeah, because it'd be like a funny action type
It would
spin.
be
I think
awesome.
you'd try to control Deadpool, and then he'd just look
And
back
he
and
would
you'd
be
be like, really?
no. Yeah,
No.
yeah, that's exactly what I want to
You're
happen. I
gonna
want him
pick
to break
that.
every fourth
You want me
wall.
to do that? And it'd be so annoying. You'd be like,
I want, but
fine,
he's
I'll
still
do
going
it.
to do it anyway, but he'll
Yeah.
be pissed.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I could definitely see that. That could totally work.
first thing popped in my head.
Yeah, no, that was good. What about you?
Maybe Star Wars, honestly.
I think that's
That'd be
kind of where
fun.
I was leaning to. Is like I'm just imagining almost like the Old Republic.
Yeah.
Like, can you
yeah.
imagine? Because what I would love, I wouldn't want to see Star Wars, but literally ignore everything we know of Star Wars, and I want some sort of interactive media where you craft your own character.
Watch everybody just do the original story.
No. Like I don't want us to hark on the original story. Still be in the same Star Wars universe and all that, but I want like a fresh character that I can feel personally connected to because I'm making all of his. I'm not controlling Luke Skywalker and making him choose all the paths that he goes on from here on out. I want to start from a character that literally every decision I make about him is like entirely me, like deciding his character as a whole and figuring out where he goes in the universe as like a more almost casual type video game where it's just all narrative, and I don't want to play. I don't want to move the character around. I just want all the narrative bits and make decisions when they come up. You know,
I mean, everybody is so hard on new Star Wars and everything, so they might
it's
as well
true.
just make
This is
their own.
how you get back the Star Wars
Yeah.
fan, and you make them
You
make
just
their
do
own
it
choices.
exactly
Or
how
just
you
give us
want
more
to
Clone
do it.
Wars.
But you know what? They're still gonna find problems with
They're
it.
still gonna find-
They're still gonna find problems.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That would be pretty cool.
And then you could
Deadpool,
also
though.
do more fantasy type stuff as well.
Hmm.
Could this be like a new way of no? Because D&D is a bit different. Because it was kind of remind me of like D&D, where it's like a much more immersive type of.
It's not
Yeah,
as
but it's not the
immersive.
same at all because like you're given only so many decisions you can make in D&D. You can do whatever the heck you want.
Right.
Like if you want to screw that monster, you
That's
can try
true.
and screw that monster. Like you do what you want to do.
D&D, you do what you want to do.
You do what you want to do. It's like, ooh, that dragon is hot.
I'm going to defeat it with my.
I want to seduce
loot.
Yeah.
My
Watch me.
Oh my god.
Critical roll.
I mean, I literally like blew some guy up in a tornado and like got his head stuck in the ceiling. So.
We
You can
dressed
do whatever
Will
you
up as a
want.
small
You can do
little girl
whatever you
because he was a
want.
gnome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it wouldn't
It
make
worked.
We
Yeah.
put Ben in a girl's tunic, and he thought, and because he had like a perception roll or something, and he like, oh man, I look really good because he rolled like solo, so we thought he was super hot, and he's really just wearing
Oh,
a girl's
no.
dress. It was hilarious, and then he got like the most attractive girl at the party to go upstairs with him,
Oh my.
Oh my!
It was a
the
great
George
game.
Chucky.
Oh my.
and he was a dwarf too. So
Dwarf
I
Scott.
love D&D.
D&T is so much fun.
That's the best game ever.
But yeah, so I think we really dove deep into all that stuff. Really happy. I think, like I said, I'm really rooting for this to be a thing. Because, like I said, I love the idea of there being types of interactive film that we never thought we wanted until it existed. I mean, even this whole like Black Mirror episode 10 years ago, you never knew you wanted this, but now you have it and you're like, this is really cool.
I like it.
Yeah, more please. So it makes me wonder if this is just the first stepping stone and we're kind of like just starting this journey, and like gone is the time before we even knew what this was, and now we're stepping into this territory of this new medium. And I wonder like 10 years from now, where will it be? Will this be a forgotten thing of that? Remember that one time we tried interactive film and how stupid that was?
And
Remember?
someone's gonna bring it back. Some nerd in his closet's gonna be like,
Yeah.
"Well, I can do it better," and he's gonna make.
Oh
it
my
like
gosh,
awesome.
you can actually have proper Dora the Explorer now. Oh my
Yes! Yes! Finally, she doesn't
Teach
just
kids
stare at
consequences.
me. She won't just stare at me like a creep. You can actually choose.
When will you learn?
Oh my gosh.
Your actions have
Consequences!
I just think that they should have had that voice line at the beginning of Bandersnatch.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing.
As soon as you decide to give the big company the game, when will you learn?
Can someone edit it like that Vine into the film? Actually,
That would
just
be
to the kid,
amazing.
be like,
That would
where
be
will you learn?
It'll be the next meme.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh,
Happen.
that's fantastic. All right, we'll end it there. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Inconceivable. Be sure to join us next time in 2 Mondays from now. Not 2 Mondays. The Monday after next.
2 weeks from tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And we are definitely going to have a spoiler cast for How to Train Your Dragon and maybe one or two others, but not confirmed yet. But we're definitely going to make one for How to Train Your Dragon 3. So stay tuned for more spoiler casts. And until next time, stay kind, geeks.
Inconceivable! Inconceivable!